everyone. This is JP Collins with Book of Hours, and this is the Daily Report. And I had a couple last-minute things to update before I went on air, so I'm a couple minutes late today. So good morning again. It is 10 a.m. in Central Time, United States. We are now in daylight saving time, so it's the D goes in there instead of the S. So CDT. It's an hour later in the East Coast, so it would be 11. And if you're on the West Coast, it is a couple hours later, so 8 o'clock. Good morning. Okay, so a little bit of business here. Tomorrow, the show is going to be on at 1 p.m. Got to take care of some things in the morning, so I won't be here at 10 a.m. I'll be here at 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So I wanted to come back to some of the things we were talking about. This is, in fact, the Daily Report, but it is also a fundraiser. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that. It's a fundraiser. And I'm doing these shows because I am now unemployed. And like 7.1 million employable people in the United States, I am one of those, and it's pretty fucked up what's going on in our country right now, and people are being denied the ability to take care of themselves, and they're being pushed into a situation where they're depending now on the state, and that's no good. That's not good. That should be there for people who are, having a lot of trouble. This isn't an artificial problem. This has been created. And if you are one of those people out there like me that are, looking for employment because the corporation let you go or the state let you go or whatever, because they're fulfilling some agenda, then you know what I'm talking about. The world of unemployment right now is a much different world than it was even last year. But I'll get into that in a minute. I want to take care of some business first. As I mentioned yesterday, we've had some donations, personal and to Book of Hours, and some of the personal ones, have helped us alleviate some of the stresses that we're dealing with. But the Book of Hours donations, we are still $325 short of our $500 goal for this week. We have made 100 and whatever it is, 175, whatever it might be, whatever that is. So we were $325 short of that $500 goal. So we are not out of the woods yet. We do need your support. We do need your donations, and $20, $10, whatever it might be, you can help us by becoming a patron and giving us a monthly stipend. At patreon.com/Book of Hours. You can see that down there in the ticker right now. There it is. Become a patron at patreon.com/Book of Hours. You can become a paid subscriber on Substack. And Substack is a place like Patreon where you can get extra content that we're producing. Julie's been writing. I will start writing more. But it's been all hands on deck lately. And that's why we created this live stream. So we've been getting some positive feedback. People like it. We're happy to produce this, but it's also being used as a fundraiser. So I enjoy doing this too. I enjoy talking to all of you and doing the things that we're doing. Reading the morning email. Sometimes I skip it if I'm not broadcasting it. Sometimes I don't. It's a little weird today. A little interesting, but not. Well, we'll get into that. It always has a liberal slant to it because it's the New York Times. I may look for some other resources like maybe Breitbart or I don't know. Political is also liberal. But anyway, we'll see what's out there. But anyway, although we are immensely grateful for the friends and family who've given through, to us through the various channels, it's allowed us to prevent our utilities from being shut off. But we need to sustain a living while I'm unemployed. So this is how we're doing it. We're producing this show, and Julie's going to do her Friday reading. We'll see if we can come up with some other things So again, we are $325 short of our $500 goal. And we need your support. And so there's many ways you can do that. Also, let's see. I need to do this. I need to move this down here. Okay. So you can see our web address up here, but I'd like you to pay attention to is the address is www.book-of-hours.com. That's our website, but our email address is info@book-of-hours.com. And you can email us if you don't like doing digital payments. Okay. And we can then send you information on how to get in touch with us otherwise. Okay. Oh, thank you, Julie. She posted the places where you can now where you can help us out. So paypal.me/Book of Hours, Cash App, $Book of Hours, Substack, bookofhours.substack.com. Oh, the Patreon got mixed in there. Sorry. And patreon.com/Book of Hours. We'll see if we can fix that. Maybe I can do that right now and paste it in. It looks like, okay, yeah, just some odd things going on here with our, let me paste this in and see if that helps. I will put this into the chat. Now, not all of you are going to see this, but hopefully. Okay, yeah, so that's good. So not a fan, no problem. It only allows us to put in so much. But here's our email address, info@book-of-hours.com. All right, so those of you on YouTube will see that. The rest of you, I'm sorry, we still have to work out a way to figure out how to chat with the rest of you on Substack and on Rumble. Okay. Before I get into the reading today, I wanted to share some other content with you. And it's in regard to what we're talking about. Pardon me for just a second. And that is to do with, the way the work world is these days, and unemployment. Being unemployed in the 21st century is way different, like I mentioned earlier, than it was even a year ago. So 2025 is much different than 2024, or even, 2022. In the 21st century work world is a different place than it was, 30, 40 years ago. And we live near an air base. The alleged hurricane hunters are at that air base, and they fly prop planes, and one just went overhead. They seem to always do that while I'm broadcasting. You don't hear it, but I do. Thought I'd just mention that. Anyway, so the thing is about employment now, or trying to find work. It's no longer about just like handing out applications or sending out your resume to, and getting interviews. I have a website and a portfolio on that website. I have my resume that you can download on that website. I make applications online to companies. I include my website, my portfolio, my LinkedIn profile, my resume, and if they allow it, a cover letter. Okay. And I've been doing this to hundreds of companies and to agencies who claim to be looking for UX designers. And I have a stack of auto response canned rejection letters, emails that if I printed them out, I could probably wallpaper this back wall with them. Okay. So it's at that level. All right. And if you go to LinkedIn and you start looking around, LinkedIn, of course, is the Facebook of the work world. Okay. Facebook is, its own thing, but LinkedIn is the sort of the corporate world, work world equivalent of Facebook. And you see people talking, and there goes Roxy. You see people on LinkedIn talking about their experiences, and there's a lot of despair out there, with good reason. There's a lot of despair out there, and it's It's really hard on people to continue to get these rejections or not hear anything at all, right? A lot of people are being ghosted, and in a lot of cases, I get ghosted as well. Unemployment seems to be as much a psychological game as it is an economic one. So we're finding that, just like with COVID, just like with other things like the 2008 crash, it's almost as much about studying how people behave in these situations as it is about the thing itself. I remember in 2008 going to an event that was sort of like a I don't know, networking event for the unemployed. I had just closed my business, and so I had to find a way to, find employment. And it was sponsored by a local church, and I was down there in their basement, and I saw hundreds of people I'd met before, actually, that I knew from other networking events and other things, who were all unemployed, and they all had these like looks on their faces, just like they were just shell shocked. And it was really hard to see. I was used to that kind of event. I was used to not having a regular paycheck because I was running my own business at the time. So I was always on the lookout for, people to, to sign up to become a client. But these were people who had always had stable jobs, and they had houses, they had mortgages like I do right now. They had kids in school like I don't have right now. And they were scared, and that sense of despair, I think, was going on then as well. So coming back to what I'm talking about now, I mean, these kinds of things have been going on for a very, very long time. But now it just feels like they keep like changing it a little bit, squeezing a little tighter. And I have two examples of what I want to play today, or a video I want to play, and then also an example of what I've been receiving. I want to tie the two together and tie them into the greater idea of like what we were talking about with the world of work today. And we were listening to Dr. P and Dr. T the other day, because we just do. I don't know. I don't. I take it with a grain of salt. But Dr. Palevsky, I like Dr. Palevsky. You can find him on Rumble. But he was talking about how the world feels like it's, become sort of the Hunger Games, the equivalent of the books and the movies, the Hunger Games. And I kind of feel like that's the way it is too. Okay, so let me play that video. I'm going to show this on the screen. Take this over, show that, and let's play it.
These are anagrams. Just do the first one only. An anagram is rearrange the letters to form a word. When you're done, I need to see your hand raised. Put your hands down. Let's just go to number 2. Don't even worry about number 1. When you're done, I want to see your hands up. For number 3, rearrange the letters, and as soon as you do, go ahead and put your hand up. Here's what you need to know. You were both given 2 different lists. This side of the room was given these 3 words. And left side of the room, here you go. They were given bat. What would the word be? The second one, they were given lemon. Brian, the word? Melon. They were easy. The trick here was both of you were given the third word, which was the same. The third word was cinerama, which was American. Your first 2 words on this side of my classroom were not solvable. They were impossible tasks. I'm sorry. I know, but here's what we did this for. I was able to induce something called learned helplessness in the left side of the room very easily within about 5 minutes. I want you to think about what happened to you, this left side of the room, when you saw the right side of the room raising their hands because they already had the task done. Jory.
Felt stupid.
You felt stupid?
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt rushed.
Felt rushed? Joelle?
I was even more confused.
You were even more confused because they all got it and you were still struggling. Chelsea?
Frustrated.
Frustrated. And so what happened to show the differences? Why did you have more of a difficult time with the third word, which was the exact same word? Brian?
My confidence was shot.
What you experienced was a term called learned helplessness. How many have heard of the term before? Let me see your hands. Learned helplessness is often used in the academic literature to mean what? Jory?
Basically, they fail once or can't do something one time, and then they apply that to everything in the future.
Oh, that ended faster than I expected. Okay, so let me double check and make sure we saw that whole video. Yes, we did. Okay, smart kids. But here it is. It's like it's the shell game, right? They're playing us, and I want to show you something that I receive pretty much on the regular. Let's see what this is here. Show this. Yeah. Okay. So along the same lines of this learned helplessness, okay, eroding your confidence and making you feel like you're not doing enough. I mean, that's what LinkedIn is full of. Okay, it's just chock full of learned helplessness going on in there. Okay, so it says, "Hi JP," and this is from a company called Aquent, and I've worked with them forever, since the 90s, since I was in my career, right? And they're a placement agency for permanent and contract work, and they placed me in some decent jobs over the years. It says, "Hi JP, I just wanted to give you a quick update on your application for the UX UI designer position with Aquent." It's perky, so I'm reading it in perky kind of way, because it was written that way. By the way, this was written by AI. This was an autoresponder. This wasn't written by a human. This was AI, and it was kicked out automatically to me, but timed in such a way to make it look like somebody reviewed my resume and whatever. Okay, so it came out at a certain time. Maybe 12 hours after I did it, after I applied for the job. We're making our way through a pool of 140 candidates. Now that number changes depending on, the job. I got one a few weeks ago that said there were 900 candidates. Okay. That's fucking insane. At this moment, our hiring manager is currently reviewing candidates. To increase your visibility, we encourage you to complete your profile here. Okay. I've done that. 23 other candidates for this position have already completed their questions. Your responses will help us prioritize your profile for opportunities that best suit your career goals. We'll be in touch as soon as we have an update for you. In the meantime, you can check the status of your application at My Aquent. Thanks, the Aquent team. Now, let me review with you what we're seeing here. Okay, they're telling me that 23 other candidates for this position have already completed their questions. Okay, this is the equivalent of the right side of the room that got the easy questions. Okay, so they're already showing me that like other people have already done this. Well, you know what? Fuck you. I've done this. Okay, these questions that they're talking about are AI generated questions, and generally they're usually the same fucking questions over and over again. And I've yet to learn that and like write my responses and keep them in a piece of in a file somewhere so I can just copy and paste them. I haven't yet to do that, and I meant to do that the other day and I forgot to do it and I lost it. So I'm gonna have to redo it and have it just handy. Yeah, dumb me. Anyway, you get into this frame of mind of like, got to apply, and it takes a long time to fill out an application online. Some of them it's 5 minutes, some of them it's half hour to 45 minutes. It depends on the company and what software they're using. But Aquent makes basically Aquent already has my resume online. It has my profile. It has all kinds of information about me. And so all I do is apply, and it says, okay, so, we have your resume. Do you want to make a change to it? We have this. Do you want to make a change to it? Otherwise, say go. And so I go, and then it kicks back these three screens that say, or it kicks back a screen that says, we have some questions regarding this job. Would you like to do it now or do it later? Okay, they give you that choice, right? That's what this email is about. So you can be lazy And you can be doofus, not gallant, and not fill it out now and do it later. Or you can be gallant and be like those other 23 candidates for this position. And, so you've already created sort of the Hunger Games going on there. And then, so the other thing that they're talking about is your profile. Okay. And I've completed my profile. I did it a while ago. And, in fact, I went back because I was getting these messages. I was like, all right, I better go back and check this, make sure I have it. Now, there were a couple things out of date. So I made updates to them. But now everything's all up to date. So for me to get this information every time, this is clearly designed to create anxiety and tension in me, thinking that, oh no, I'm in competition with other people. And they've already gotten their answers and they've raised their hand. What am I going to do? Right. Okay. So that's what this is about. And, so that's why we play that video. And that's why I'm showing this to you. This is what it's like now out there in the unemployment world. Aside from that, I was talking about the hoops that I've got to jump through. I just received an email with a very official looking, threat that was like, you have to appear at the, such and such office on such and such a date, or else you will lose your benefits. And I've already talked to them about this. I know what I need to do, but I still get these sort of like threatening emails. So it's not, it's not very pleasant experience. So everybody who's unemployed right now, who's trying to deal with, looking for work, are being made to feel bad because they're not doing enough. They are bad because they have to. Because they need to do more. If you go to LinkedIn, you're not doing the thing they're telling you to do. I mean, I saw something on LinkedIn the other day where this woman was like, here's a strategy: use ChatGPT to help you with, getting this job. First, go through the job description and collect the points of the things that this job description are all about, and then put it into ChatGPT and have it write you a note about, what you can do, blah, 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 using these points, so that when you apply for that job, you can put that into your cover letter. Well, not all of these, except cover letters. And, and it was just like this point by point by point by point by using AI to help you get jobs, right? And this kind of thing has been going around LinkedIn for a little while. And again, it's that kind of idea that, you're not doing enough on your own. You need help. You need to do this. This strategy and follow through and make sure that you're doing something all the time. Be stressed out and you're not good enough. You're just not good enough. But Julie sent me something. She's like, go back to the letter here from Aquent, and she, and I did mention this, but like, we're making our way through a pool of 140 candidates. As opposed to, oh, right. Okay. So yeah, her point was they're all getting this message too. Okay. So even the 23 other candidates that have already done their profiles, like me, right? I'm actually among those 23, but I'm still getting this message, and it's designed to place anxiety on me. Okay. It's designed to make you anxious about you're not doing enough. Okay. And so that blame and shame is part of the game, part of what's going on here. And we found this with COVID, and we found this with other things as well. And so this nudging, Julie says, there are actually no 23 candidates ahead of the game. Well, that may be true. That may be a made up number. But I have a feeling that there are some lazy people out there that just haven't solved that anagram. And they haven't done their questions. And so I feel good because I'm part of the 23. You see how this works? Okay. So I'm going to hide that. And yeah. So this behavioral manipulation is part of the process. And it's, again, like I was saying, it's like the Hunger Games, and it's making all of us get into this idea of learned helplessness. It erodes our confidence, like that one kid said. It makes it impossible for you to think strategically, or even just like go back and like ground yourself and say, you know what? I did everything. I did everything I can. I am not a bad person. I am just another person trying to find work. And this idea of, applying online, this is also a learned behavior, right? I've been applying online for 20, 25 years. I had a website with my portfolio that long ago, 20, 25 years ago. This was at a time, back then it was at a time when people still wanted me to bring in a paper resume, and it had to look really sharp and really cool. And I'm like, but my portfolio, and they wanted me to bring in a physical portfolio, but my portfolio is online. I'm a digital designer. It's online. Go to my website. And they were like really resistant to that. So I was even ahead of the game, and it still was a problem, right? It was still a problem. And so what we're finding is that, this is not about whether you can do the job or not. It's about connections and whether you can connect with somebody or not. And this interface of, digital communication, websites and LinkedIn and applying online creates a big, thick digital wall between you and that person who's on the other side. There is no personal connection anymore. To the point where it's like, instead of going in for an interview, I have video interviews with people. And this is taking place in San Francisco, even when there was somebody, when I was in San Francisco and the job was in San Francisco and somebody could, easily just have me come in. This is about saving time. This is about saving money. They blame, and even when I did go in, it was like this whole security rigmarole because of other, psyops that took place, prior to that. Like there was a shooting in the late 80s in a building called 101 California. And, they use that as their excuse to keep people from just walking into office spaces. And then, because any time after that, you had to have security clearance. You had to go through, you had to have a badge, and you had to swipe that. And they didn't want people coming in to drop off their resumes. They didn't want people just dropping in to have lunch with their friend. They didn't want people coming into their office at all. Okay. They wanted this protection. And it's been a slow setup over time to erode the personal from the workplace and from making connections in order to find those jobs. And it makes it easier for people who already have built-in connections, like family or, just other connections, school, if you went to the right school. I went to a networking event one time when I was running my business, and it was the most discouraging thing I've ever experienced in my life. And it was class war, basically. I went to this thing. It was called it was graduates of, it was called the alumni group, I guess. And it was for graduates of, all the schools, Cal, Stanford, blah, 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 Harvard, et cetera. That's what the guy told me. I was talking to somebody at the bar, and I said, so, what's this about? Because I graduated, but I graduated from the People's School. I graduated from San Francisco State University. And, it was a plebeian kind of experience. It was not Stanford. It was not a private school. Cal is even like a public school, but it's like the upper end echelons of public universities, right? So all these people went to these great schools, and here I was, this working class kid trying to, sell my business to people. And I immediately felt looked down on because I had to ask what this was and trying to talk to somebody. And it's like, oh, all the schools. Yeah, well, not my school. Okay. So it's been this way for a long time. And Julie's going to talk about something on her Friday reading regarding yeah, thanks for the intro. Yeah, that's a nice transition. Julie's going to talk about somebody with connections on her Friday reading, and it's in regard to the Doge gang and this one particular kid who's getting a lot of attention and a lot of ire. But she says, speaking of schools, let's get to the morning reading. That's why we're all here. But let me just say before I start reading it, this is also a fundraiser. So we're $325 short. So please donate now. Give us some filthy lucre. No, what we do is we need your help. So make a one-time donation to paypal.me/Book of Hours, Cash App, $ Book of Hours, or become a patron at patreon.com/Book of Hours. Or you can go to Substack and be a paid subscriber to Substack at bookofhours.substack.com. Okay. So we need that help. We need that support. We are still shy of our $500 goal. We are at Wednesday and we aren't even halfway there. So we need that help. Okay. Let's go to the morning reading. Whoops. The morning email. Lubricate my larynx. Good morning. We're covering Trump's layoffs at the Education Department, tariffs, and spelling bee. I don't know if we'll get into that, but we're going to talk about this. And this is a generic photo that says it's in Atlanta. Who knows? Education Reform by Diana Goldstein. I cover education. Okay. You can always tweet these people, by the way. Last night, the Trump administration fired more than 1,000 workers. Okay, what? Last night, the Trump administration fired more than 1,000 workers at the Education Department. So you can add another 1,000 people to that 7.1 million people who are employable but out of work. It's not gone, meaning the Department of Education. But only Congress, okay, it's not gone. Only Congress can abolish a cabinet level agency. So even though the cabinets are at the executive level, this is your alleged checks and balances. But anyway, it's not gone. Only Congress can abolish a cabinet level agency. But President Trump can hobble it while retaining a core staff to advance his agenda. Now, before I get into this, I forgot to mention, this particular email is pretty much about policy and opinion, and it's definitely coming from a liberal point of view, as always. But I don't really have a lot to say about it. I will try to break it down a little bit. But the Department of Education, I don't agree with it 100%. I don't believe that it really. Personally, I don't know if it should exist at all. So there's some things that are taking place that I agree with, and there's some things that I don't agree with that are taking place. But we'll find out. Like they do a pretty good job in this article about kind of talking about what the agency actually does. But I just want to say that this is about people's opinions, their political point of view, and how they view policy and the federal government and what it does for its citizens or against its citizens. Okay. All right. So let's get back into this. Trump wants to use the department to crack down on schools and colleges with DEI efforts he opposes. Now, this is one of those statements that I'm talking about. Yeah. There's a lot of us who go, yeah, fuck yeah. But it's not about that. This is just the churn that's part of what's going on. Okay. He also says parents and local governments should fully control education policy. Well, yeah, but again, it's part of the churn. Okay. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's allies have slashed the education research budget and moved to replace some human labor with artificial intelligence. Well, that is, what's going on. Okay. That's why people are being fired from their jobs in government agencies, as well as what I've been doing, in the corporate sector. Combined with earlier layoffs, the latest cuts will leave the agency with about half the staff it had before Inauguration Day. In today's newsletter, I'll explain what the Education Department does, and after this week, what it may not do. The main job. students are unlikely to feel much immediate impact. That's because despite what Trump says, state and local school districts already make their own decisions about reading lists, curriculums, teacher pay, testing policies, and student discipline practices. This is only half true, okay? And again, it comes down to your opinion and your point of view. We have done a lot of interviews with an expert on, I was going to bring those up, on education. We've done a number of interviews, and you can find them on our YouTube site. Julie, if you can text me our friend's name, I just completely lost it in my head. Most of the education department's budget helps. Most of the education department's budget helps students pay for college through grants and loans. Many Trump allies, so it's Trump allies, many Trump allies believe that the student aid program should be transferred to the Treasury Department, and sources in Washington say that work is now underway. I don't know about that. The department's critics. And here's a generic photo of the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C. Lynn Taylor, the Common Core diva. So go back and look for videos with us interviewing our friend Lynn Taylor, as she goes by the Common Core diva. So you can find those in our long list of videos on Book of Hours. And those will be both in, the regular videos, but also there's a button you can, or a tab you can check to see all our live videos. Okay, so it'll be in there as well. The federal government has collected data and conducted research on education since the 19th century. But historically, both Democrats and Republicans have doubted whether the United States needs a cabinet department for this. Okay, so it already out the gate, the Department of Education is a controversial agency. Okay. Jimmy Carter created the department in 1979. So it's not that old, but it's been around a while. Not quite 50 years yet. Fulfilling a campaign promise to teachers' unions. So this is, partly why I think the conservatives have always been against it, because Jimmy Carter and teachers' unions, they're always going on about teachers' unions, basically created this thing together. But even he was skeptical. Okay, so the New York Times is taking an interesting approach here. They'll get into this in a second. So let me just keep reading. Jimmy Carter created the department in 1979, fulfilling a campaign promise to teachers' unions. But even he was skeptical. At a celebration of the agency's creation, Carter tempered the crowd's exuberance, warning, "This thing won't work as well as you think it will." And I'm not going to attempt a Jimmy Carter imitation. Some liberals flatly opposed the department back then, believing that a single federal agency should handle all the programs, healthcare, cash welfare, and education that affects kids. I'm not sure about that, but again, this is another one of those things. It falls into how your viewpoint, your view of the world, and filtered through your political views and how you see policy. Okay, so even liberals back then opposed it, but their idea was to make a bigger, more extensive and centralized department that would handle all these things for kids. Okay. Still, in recent decades, the education department's work became part of the Beltway firmament and enjoyed bipartisan support. So over the years, both sides of the aisle started supporting the education department, and that's because money was involved. Okay, money that helped out their constituencies. All right, and where their voters lived. Many of the programs it oversees are popular. Those include Pell Grants, which pay for college tuition, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which helps disabled children get services. Now, I want to back up here. I just want to say, Pell Grants are not available for everybody. I was always one of those kids that fell, like now, you fall in between the cracks between being able to afford to go to college and getting a Pell Grant. you make too much money to get a Pell Grant, but you don't make enough to pay for college. I ended up going back to school as an adult. And the way that I was able to afford to go to college was A, go to a state school that didn't cost that much money, and B, be married while my wife works and pays for the rent, and I work and pay for school. So that's how it worked. Okay. So I did not pull myself up by my own bootstraps. And it makes it hard. That squeeze there in that middle, it forces people like me and others that I've known into student loans if they want to go to better schools. I was able to go to a cheaper school, so that's how I dealt with it. Trump's education goals. The right's view has changed in recent decades. So maybe some of these people that were supporting this department, maybe some of those have moved. I think that the political right has probably become more prominent, and some of these things have changed over time. Less globalist and maybe more nationalist. Okay, so speaking of globalists, Republicans like George W. Bush thought the federal government had an important role. It should ensure that students really learn at school, and it should push more students to and through college. Okay, Trump's movement has a very different agenda. He and his allies want to give parents public dollars they can use to pay for private school tuition and homeschooling. This has been a bugaboo since I was a kid in Catholic school. My parents were, always wishing that they could get some sort of stipend from the government to help pay for private school, Catholic education, parochial school. But I ended up going to public school in high school. But, this feels like socialism for rich people. Okay. And again, it comes into that whole point of view, right? So it kind of like, it feels like it's an approach that is the opposite of the whole point of view that the MAGA crowd are pushing. So it's okay to get public dollars to go to private school, but it's not okay to have public dollars go to pay for everybody's school. You see what I'm saying? So, okay, policy point of view. Conservatives also oppose student debt forgiveness, a Biden administration priority. Joe Biden wiped away debt for millions of borrowers. The Supreme Court blocked part of that effort, calling it illegal. Alongside some liberal allies, they now argue that fewer Americans need traditional four-year college. Both Trump and his education secretary, Linda McMahon, have encouraged more students to pursue vocational education instead. Now, these two sentences are the crux of this email. And what we're seeing is that yesterday I talked about how we're being pushed into a new form of indentured servitude. Office jobs, knowledge jobs, where, people are, knowledge workers. Back when I was in my 30s, that's what, Al Gore was pushing, right? My 20s and 30s, the Clinton administration were pushing this idea of like knowledge workers and he even got to the point where it was like creative workers are the next thing. And I never found that to be the case, even though I was of that alleged elite group of workers. What we're finding and what we've talked about is a compression of society, a compression of people, and we're all being pushed down into a mush of, all those people down there versus the billionaire class and the investor class and the ruling class up above. And so what they're saying is that now we have to make less money in the future. You don't need to be educated. So go into those trades and be a servant to us. basically. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say something else, but I'm not really sure what that was going to be. All right. So that's the crux of this email. It's right in the middle. Okay. This is apparently in Studio City, California. This classroom. Well, there's the California Republic flag, so I guess that makes it California. Trump officials posit that test scores are low because of the federal role in education. Huh? Okay, whatever. And like any government bureaucracy, there is bloat, dated websites, and research projects that aren't relevant to student or teachers in the real world. So they're basically editorializing against the Department of Education here, from the standpoint of, yeah, there's bloat and there's shitty websites and they're not doing the job they set out to do. So there's the criticism from the New York Times against this. Remember, this is a liberal rag, but it's also a more conservative liberal point of view. Still, because they support wars and shit too. So right. So anyway, still, achievement improved during 2 periods when Washington was unusually involved in schools, scholars say. In the 1970s and 1980s, when courts desegregated Southern classrooms, it wasn't just Southern classrooms. I can remember when busing was an issue in Boston. Okay, so this is another little swipe here from the New York Times, against the economies that in the South. This wasn't just in the South. The South was always, I'm supporting. Here I am, trying to support the races and I'm not trying to support the things that went on in the South. Yes, things were bad, much worse than up north. But when it came to classrooms, when it came to schools, there was segregation in the North as well. Chicago, Boston, New York. I remember as a kid watching the Today Show that my parents had on before I was going to school. And I remember seeing reports about, protests going on in Boston about busing. Okay. And busing is all about making sure that the kids are mixed up in racially in the classrooms. Okay. All right. So let's get back to this. In the 1970s and 1980s, when courts a point that I'm trying to make here is that you have to pay attention to how things are worded and and how they slant a point of view or put their point of view in very strategically and very sneakily, if that's a word. In the 1970s and 1980s, when courts desegregated Southern classrooms, academic gaps between racial groups closed significantly. Test scores also rose in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Experts are still debating why, but those years were the height of a bipartisan movement focused on standards and accountability. Well, I think that standards and accountability are still part of the world right now. Everything is measured and taken into consideration before anything is done. But anyway, I digress. Bush signed a law holding schools and teachers, accountable for student test scores. Barack Obama supported those goals too. But that meant students took more exams and a backlash to testing gathered in strength. In 2015, Obama signed a law relaxing the federal pressure. In other words, yesterday's cuts come at a time when federal involvement in classrooms is the lowest it has been in decades. So here's their point. This is their ultimate point of view. Why is the Trump administration cutting the Department of Education when it's the federal government's involvement in schools is at its all-time low? And then they say more on the federal government. The Trump administration intends to eliminate Environmental Protection Agency offices responsible for addressing the disproportionately high levels of pollution facing poor communities. Wow, that's the first time I've seen anything like that in a while. That's, again, a story behind a paywall. But they're not talking about climate change. They're talking about environmental justice and poor communities dealing with pollution and bad air quality, bad water quality, pollution in the soil. There was when we lived in Pittsburgh, well, in McKees Rocks, there was a community maybe 5-10 miles away from where we lived, and I don't remember the name of it, but they had, and it was considered local, but there was this factory they called the Cracker Factory or something like that. And they didn't make crackers. What they did was they recycled plastic, and it was like, plastic is toxic. It doesn't matter what's going on. And we had a guy come out to help us with our house. He laid some tile for us, and he was showing us photos of the Cracker Factory at night when it was like expelling like something, right? Something into the air, and the lights lit up all these clouds of whatever was effluent was going out, right? Who knows what was in that? So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Pollution facing poor communities. It was not a rich community. It wasn't the middle of Pittsburgh where there are, big mansions from the ruling class. These are working people, and they're out there, and they've got this fucking factory out there, and everybody's like celebrating the fact that this factory is there because it means jobs, but it also means poor health and bad living conditions. So, I am definitely against, something like that. Now, I know that there's overreach from these agencies and things like that. But at the same time, Congress and the presidents for the last 40 years have been eroding all the gains that were made in the 1970s addressing water pollution, air pollution, and pollution in general. Okay. Instead, we're getting talk about climate change, okay, and carbon. So that's really interesting that they did that. Okay. Let's get into the tariffs real quick, and then, oh God. Ugh. Okay. More on Trump. Okay. Trump's 25% tariff on metal imports went into effect. Okay. And so all the aluminum and iron companies are going, and steel companies are going, yay. The move is expected to raise the cost of making cars, solar panels, and other products in the US, potentially slowing the economy. So not sure what that means. I mean, okay, I guess it's like we're importing resources to do these things. I don't know. Solar panels are not made in the US, they're made in China. Just saying. So maybe that's what they're talking about. The European announced billions of retaliatory tariffs. Nice. Okay, well, that's to be expected. The Ambassador Bridge in Michigan. In a frenetic tit for tat, officials in Canada and the U.S. imposed, officials in Canada and the U.S. imposed and then rescinded bursts of fees and tariffs. So there's this that's what they're calling a trade war. Ontario added a surcharge on electricity it supplies to neighboring U.S. states. Okay. In response, because, it has to cross an invisible border. In response, Trump doubled his tariffs on steel and aluminum. By the end of the day, both had relented. All right. So kiss and make up. Shake hands and make up. Trump repeated his threat to annex Canada. The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state, he wrote on social media. I guess that's Trump. I mean, he's just, he's that Catskill comedian that's out there in front to keep us distracted from what's actually taking place. Like, 7.1 billion or million people out of work in the United States. And those are employable people, not children, not the elderly. Let's see. The war in Ukraine. Ukraine said it would support the Trump administration's plan for a 30-day ceasefire in the war with Russia. Russia has not yet responded to the proposal. Well, maybe we go, maybe we not. In exchange for Ukraine's cooperation, the U.S. resumed military assistance and intelligence sharing. So we're still not out of that one. Russian forces are assaulting Sudzha, the main town in the part of its Kursk region that Ukraine captured last year. Trump's diplomatic moves over the past 50 days have hollowed out the international system that the U.S. built after World War II. David Sanger writes. So another article for you to not read because it's behind a paywall. More on Trump. Oh boy, look at this one. This is a photo of Trump and a Tesla and Elon fucking Musk. So here's the deal. I talked about this yesterday. Like, liberals loved the Tesla before the Trump administration because it was electric and it was nothing coming out of the tailpipe, and it was green because it was electric and all this bullshit. And now they're like upset because Elon Musk and Trump. It's a shitty car. Okay, just saying. It's ugly and it looks like other cars. There's nothing interesting or exciting about it. Trump and Musk surveyed Teslas in front of the White House in what was essentially an extended commercial for Musk's company. Awesome. Late night host weighed in. Okay, so what? Of course. Musk told Trump's advisors that he wants to donate $100 million to Trump's political operation. I don't even understand that. A senior official at USAID ordered employees to destroy classified documents. It's not clear if records officials gave permission or not. The or not is mine. Tuberculosis is resurgent after Trump cut aid that helped treat the disease across Africa and Asia. Okay. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told food company executives that he intends to eliminate artificial dyes. Yeah, let's pay attention to sugar and artificial dyes. Yes, those are problems. But, let's not pay attention to, other things. Okay. All right. We don't need to read the rest of these. COVID anniversary on March 12th. Well, we're actually, tomorrow is it was what I would consider the anniversary, but, right, for the national emergency. Yeah, 5 years ago tomorrow. Okay. That's about it. Okay, so that is the morning email. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. I'm not seeing any people commenting today. Okay, so going back to what we're talking about, I'm sure that those of you who are watching this in non-live format will be making your comments, and that's cool. We do read them. We don't always respond, but we do read them. But what we'd like you to do as a response to our request here is to help us out. We are in a bind here, okay? I won't sugarcoat it. We need help. We're still $325 short of our $500 goal for this week. We had a goal set on Monday when I started this program. So $500 for the week. We are now on Wednesday, hump day. So we are not even halfway there. Well, what is it? Yeah, okay, we're over half. So we're about where we should be for. No, we're not. No, we're not at half. We need 325. We're 75% short. So we need your help. Please, if you can, become a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours. Doesn't cost a lot. You can become a patron. We get a monthly stipend at the end of the month. So that helps us a lot. It's a repeating thing. And so if you do it for, a few months, say 6 months, that helps us out. So $10, $20 monthly, if you can afford that, that would be awesome. Become a paid subscriber at bookofhours.substack.com. That would also be very awesome because, again, these are repeated donations and they come back to us every month, and we can kind of count on that and help us budget better. It also helps us, produce these shows. You can also make a one-time donation at paypal.me/bookofhours. We've had a number of people come through using PayPal, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. You can also use Cash App if you are so inclined, $Book of Hours. Okay. So again, I just want to reiterate that we are up against the wall. We have bills that we need to pay, not just internet Okay. I mean, we're talking electricity, we're talking gas, we're talking about those things that everybody needs to live in a modern world, right? The things that have kind of been, in a lot of ways, forced on us. You know, if you rent an apartment, there's generally legislation in place by your state that you are required to have hot water. Okay. What creates hot water? Well, energy. It's not, if it's not electricity, it's gas. Okay. And you have to pay for that. Okay. So that is something that we are required to have. Electricity is also something that's required to have in, you know, in an apartment or, you know, in a house. Okay. These things are required. And why were they required? Because legislation went into place to make sure that the electric companies and the gas companies got paid. You didn't opt out of that shit. You know, I also want to point out that like street lights that people consider there for safety that go on at night weren't created for safety purposes in the first place. They were created to take care of the surplus of energy that built up during the night that energy companies couldn't get rid of. And so it was a way for them to make money, but also get rid of that surplus energy. Okay. So, you know, a lot of the things that we deal with in the modern world that we consider essential weren't necessarily essential to the people who lived, you know, 100 years ago. So think about that. And even though, yeah, I liked hot showers, I like to take a hot shower. I like to do a lot of things that are you know, part of this modern world, but we got to pay for those things. And I don't have a job right now, and so I need support from all of you who watch our programming, watch our videos, get something out of what we bring to you. We are we take time out of our day to read these articles, to think about them and analyze them and go over them with you. It looks to me like I am just over the 1 hour mark. So I'm hitting about the time that I usually sign off. So it takes more than just the hour that I'm on air. I have to set up, I have to read the thing that I'm going to read to you first and come up with an opinion. Come up with some show notes, do all the stuff beforehand. That's why I was 2 minutes late today. So, you know, what we're looking for, you know, this is sort of the equivalent of a tip jar for a band or paying a subscription to a newspaper or some sort of magazine, whatever it might be. You pay for the content that you're receiving. And so we're not, you know, demanding this, but we're asking you, please help us continue the work that we do. Help us have a house and live so that we can continue doing the work that we do. Okay. And, you know, we wanted to start doing something on the daily that you can latch onto and start, you know, listening to and getting a better idea of what's going on out there in the world, because it's a really fucked up place out there right now. So yeah, so tomorrow we're going to be back. But it's going to be at 1 p.m. Central Time. So that'll be 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. West Coast Time. So I've got some things to do in the morning. So we'll do that tomorrow, 1 p.m. Central Time. This is JP Collins with Book of Hours. This is the Daily Report coming to you from Biloxi, Mississippi on the Gulf Coast in the Gulf of Mexico. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.